All right, guys, let's do part two, the strike and reverse version of fragrances young me would have liked that old me doesn't. Now it's fragrances that old me right now like that young me probably wouldn't have enjoyed too much. So and I'm doing it because it's fun. It's kind of fun to think about it and think how much my tastes have changed, how they've matured, how they how they've just changed, and how people change in general. Um, it's kind of an interesting topic, really. And the quick little YouTube videos aren't going to do it justice, but this is just for fun. So let's get right into it. So this is ones, like I said, adult me right now loves that young me would have hated. I know he would have because I was there. I lived it. Let's start out with um, a broad category, kind of like aquatics was in the other video. Anything really oud, spiced, incense based. You know what I mean? Uh, we'll use this one for just because it was the first one I grabbed, but Oud Mood, the toughest Oud Mood. You know, yeah, sweet, spicy, smoky, woody oud. Uh, I love the deep, somewhat mysterious nature of oud, especially combined with spice and smoke and vanilla or slash amber. Um, it's my type of fragrance nowadays. Uh, Young me, it would have been way too funky and unwearable. I would have been so self conscious wearing something like this that I just stunk. Do you know what I mean? Wouldn't have been it weren't no Adidas. Like it would have just so yeah, anything kind of that oody, spicy, smoky, sweet kind of vibe. Anything oud in general just would not have worked for 15-year-old Wayne. Not at all. Next is going to be one that surprised you because this is one of my favorites, pretty much of all time now, and I think a lot of people's favorite in the line anyway, and that's Sauvage Elixir. You know, I love the woody, spicy, somewhat even licoricey, star anise kind of vibe with a throwback masculinity that this has. And the sheer power of this is ridiculous. Uh, it just would have been too much, honestly. Back in the day, it would have been too much for me. I wouldn't have liked the anise licorice kind of vibe and spice that you get from it. And the power would have overwhelmed me. I just wouldn't have known when or how to wear this. Again, another one that I would have just felt self conscious in. I would have just, yeah, it just wasn't for Kid Wayne to rock. It just wasn't. But it's so good. So good. Oh my God, it's so good. uh, Next is going to be Bentley for Men Absolute. Uh, the same reason I like it now is the exact same reason I would have hated it back then. Way too many woods, but specifically that kind of funky, woody sandalwood type vibe. Kind of giving it best way. Funky is the best way I can describe it. Um, I imagine I would have smelled this as a child and just gagged. It would have been that disgusting to me. And now I just think it's one of the greatest wood fragrances ever made. Honestly, I enjoy it greatly. I will say some people say pencil shavings, and I get that, and I love it. 100% love it. Absolutely. Um, let's move right into another black bottle. The last three have been black. The last four are black bottles, to tell you the truth. Bulgari Man in Black. I just got my little 30 mil bottle or whatever it is here. 20 mil? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Um, again, falls in the same category as the Absolute. The same reason I love it now is the same reason I wouldn't have liked it back then, honestly. You know, right? It's a dry, powdery fragrance with some nice spice and woods. It would have been too dry, too powdery, and too weak. This is not a projection piece. Longevity's fine, but it's not a projection piece. That would have bugged me back in the day, too. You know, it would have smelled to me back in the day like an old grumpy man. You know, like, but I love it nowadays, I guess, because I am an old grumpy man. Get off my lawn, kid. Stop playing your rock and roll music. And last but not least, again, it's going to fall into that pretty much every fragrance is based around this note, and that's Gentleman Givenchy, but the iris in it. You know, right now, to me, I think it's classy, sophisticated, romantic, gorgeous kind of fragrance. Any of them iris-based fragrances, your Dior Homes, your Givenchy Gentleman line, you know, any of your Valentino Uomos, to a certain degree, Prada, Luna Rossa, not Luna Rossa, Prada, Luna Rossa, and the Prada line, different take on iris, but still, but especially this kind of makeup-y, powdery, makeup-y, even slightly sticky iris. To a lot of people, it reminds them of lipstick, woman's makeup, and I can imagine Little Wayne back in the day would have sprayed something like this and been like, "Oh my God, this sounds like my grandmother," you know, and it really would have back then. It still kind of does, honestly, but I love it. You know, I just Little Wayne would have thought this smelled like an old lady, straight and simple. No need to go on anymore about it. He would have thought it smelled like an old lady, whereas old Wayne thinks it's a classy gentleman kind of vibe. So it's funny how tastes change. So I hope you enjoyed these two videos, guys. It was just something I wanted to do for fun. Very, yeah, I love nostalgia. You guys know that. And I love thinking about stuff like that, like how things, my personal taste have changed. But it also shows how perfumery's kind of changed in a way, right? But mostly how just my personal taste have changed over the years. Like I said, I would have rocked the hell out of Invictus. As much as I don't really care for that kind of fragrance nowadays, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old me would have just drowned myself in it and loved every second of it. Whereas again, 14, 15, 16-year-old me would not have put this on and thought, and I would have washed this off. And most of these I would have washed off. I'd have washed this off. All of them I would have washed off. But now I can't get enough of them, right? So tell me, guys, a fragrance or two that you think, or you know, because like I said, you were there, that you would have liked as a kid that you don't like now, or vice versa, that you like now that you knew you wouldn't have liked as a kid. Um, it's just fun to, because there's, Christ, 100 more I could have picked, you know what I mean? But I just want to keep it relatively simple and pretty much to the point. And I think both these 5 fragrances got to the point of how my tastes have changed, but how kids, again, how young children and kids and young adult in general, your taste change, because now there's certain fragrances that defy that, you know, like Acqua di Gio. I mean, everybody wears Acqua di Gio, right? Old or young, people have been wearing it since they were 10, and people are still wearing it in their 40s, you know. So it but most fragrances, you develop your own. You tend to go when you're younger. Again, I've noticed with sweeter fragrances, fresher fragrances, uh, and more marketed fragrances. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you'd rather wear, when you're young, an Adidas fragrance over a Dior fragrance, because Dior, well, as you get older, you find out just how prestigious Dior is. When you're 12 or 13, you have no idea. You think Adidas is the polo Calvin Klein, they're the pinnacle, right? And then you get a little older and you start exploring a bit, and you find out fragrances like Dior, YSL, uh, Givenchy. These are all very prestigious and very expensive designer houses, and you start to develop a taste for them. So, and then some of us are just big kids and we never change. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, just give me some thoughts. Peace, love, be good to each other, and be good to yourselves.